Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, thank you. I would entertain a motion for approval of minutes of the August 16th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola Dye. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Is that Mr. Thompson?
Were there any corrections? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson. Yes. Mr. Workman. Yes. Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. I'd like to welcome you this evening. Thank you for coming. And we're going to change the order of our agenda slightly. We do have a presentation from our student government leader, but before that, I would like to mention, I know most of you are here for public participation, and we've moved that to the beginning of the meeting, and we're foregoing board comments, and also there are no commendations or communications for this evening. And I would like to make sure that everyone is aware that each person has an opportunity to speak who signed up, and we will allow 30 minutes. We typically, our board policy says 15 minutes with the option of extending for special circumstances, and we felt like that was appropriate this evening. So there will be 15 minutes of participation, and each person will speak for 3 minutes. There will be a timer on the screen, so that will make it easy. Hopefully someone will help me if I'm not looking at the screen, but looking at the speaker. And I would like to review what was sent home. Mr. Cedar constructed or composed, I should say, a public notice, and I'd like to direct your attention to paragraph 3, in which he said that we recognize that passions may be high, but we expect everyone to act with respect toward the board and toward each other, and with civility. So that will be, it won't be tolerated otherwise. So I just wanted to make that clear. And I would refer to our policy. Some people have asked about our policy. We have a policy about communicable diseases. It's 8450, and that was implemented quite some time ago. I think it was August 5th, 1996 is when that was adopted. And then we have a policy, administrative policy about face masks, and that they would be used during a pandemic, and that during times of elevated spread, the superintendent may activate this policy by notifying the school community. And that policy was adopted October 19th, 2020, and it was most recently revised May 17th, 2021. So I just wanted you to be aware of those two policies. And with that, I did want to ask Mr. Cedar if you'd like to give a welcome, and if there's anything I've forgotten, please feel free to.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. That was fine. I would like to welcome everyone here this evening. We did decide to extend our public participation portion of this meeting to 30 minutes. And we do want to try to give those an opportunity to speak. So we're going to try to do our best to make sure your voices are heard. It is interesting. I had a lot of MVNU students here tonight. Welcome, MVNU students. I don't know if you knew exactly what you might be walking into tonight, but this is public participation, and this is folks sharing what's on their heart and what's on their mind. So we want to do that. As you look at the agenda that's up to your right, hopefully you got a copy. We usually start with some public reports. We did record from our senior class president, John V. Vattel, a student government report. So I'll play that before we jump into our public participation portion of this meeting.
Hi, my name is John Vattel, and I'm the senior class president, and I'm just going to be discussing some things that have been going on at the high school for the past couple of weeks. Thankfully, we're able to return to all in-person classes, and we were also able to have our freshman orientation, where we taught the freshmen all the high features and the etiquette of the hive. We also thankfully are able to have all of our homecoming festivities. So on October 7th, we have our homecoming bonfire, which is going to be at the softball fields. And on October 8th, we have our homecoming football game against Mansfield Jackson. On October 30th, we have our homecoming dance, which is going to be from 7 to 10 o'clock at Ariel Foundation Park. And we moved it so that all students will be able to attend. We also fortunately have been able to have all fall sports in motion, which include football, soccer, volleyball, and cross country. And this Saturday at 4 p.m., we have our jacket showcase, which includes our band and the bands of other high schools in Knox County. 2 students were also named for the National Merit Scholarship based on PSAT scores, and those students are Ethan Temple and Beckett Hawkins. NHS and Key Club held a blood drive on September 9th, and there's going to be another blood drive during the first week of November. NHS applications are due on October 13th. The Spanish Club is selling salsa, and Powder Puff will be during the last week of October. Powder Puff Day will be between junior girls and senior girls. Tomorrow night from 6:30 to 8 p.m. we have our college night at the Energy Fieldhouse, and there will be over 60 college reps.
Okay, special thanks to John B. for sharing that report. College night that's coming up tomorrow night sounds really promising with 60 different colleges there, so that's awesome. We're going to go ahead and move into our public participation portion of the meeting. And so we'll pull this up. Dr. Bennett, I believe you have the order of those who have signed up, and we'll go down with a 3-minute time parameter and for 30 minutes.
Our first speaker is Dr. Andrea White. And would you please state your full name, complete address?
My name is Andrea White. I live at 60 Village Road, Vernon. My husband and I have 2 children in the district, one in elementary school and the other in middle school. I speak to encourage you to retain the current mask mandate as long as there are populations of children who are unvaccinated or who are ineligible to be fully vaccinated. The mask mandate works both to reduce the number of students and staff diagnosed with COVID and to keep students from having to be in quarantine and thus absent from school. Unlike last year, children share equal burden of the Delta variant of COVID-19, both in disease burden and in transmission. After the mask mandates were implemented in Knox County schools this fall, cases fell precipitously in the county. The elementary schools and middle school in particular should retain the mask mandate until children under 12 have the opportunity to be fully vaccinated. Vaccines clearly work to reduce the threat of severe disease, hospitalization, and death. Just today, we learned that those aged 5 to 11 may be cleared by the middle to the end of October to start their vaccination sequence. Without a mask mandate, schools work will become that much harder as the numbers of cases, quarantines, and contact tracing for close contacts will increase. Without a mask mandate, the absence rate will increase, putting the burden on teachers to provide dual lesson plans and the burden on families to facilitate academic catch-up. Absences will widen the achievement gap and make learning less accessible for our most challenged learners in particular. The even greater burden placed on children is that they become that much more likely to bring infection home to vulnerable family members. None of us want our child to be responsible for a family member's illness or death. And I'm going to quote from a letter that the Knox Public Health sent to all families in the county. Quote, children's hospitals throughout Ohio report their inpatient numbers for children with COVID-19 are the highest they have ever been. More children than ever are entering their emergency departments and urgent care centers. This impacts the care of all children, not just those who are COVID-19 positive. 7 Knox County children have been among those hospitalized. The Knox Public Health continues to support the use of masks for prevention of COVID-19. And then finally, these are my own words. As you know, I'm a developmental psychologist. There is no evidence that mask wearing causes developmental difficulties or harms mental health. There are plenty of hypotheses that could be explored, but no data as of yet. However, there is abundant evidence that absence from school increases mental and academic and emotional challenges. Further, the burden of guilt that would be carried by a child bringing home an infectious disease to a vulnerable family member could have lifelong consequences. Finally, I do hope that you and the board realize that parents most likely to endorse a mask mandate are those least likely to attend a school board meeting that itself is an event where people are unlikely to wear masks and could very well be an event where COVID could be spread by previously exposed symptomless people and their prodromal speech. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our second speaker is Dr. Schoenfield.
My name is Jenny Schoenfeld. I'm at 408 East Vine Street in Mount Vernon. I have a child in elementary school and a child in high school in the district. I'm here to urge you to continue the mask mandate in our schools. In an article last week, here's a quote: "The American Academy of Pediatrics reports that COVID-19 cases among children have increased 240% nationally since early July. When the Delta variant began to take hold. Cases for Ohio kids increased 2,000% during that period. Clearly, the Delta variant is impacting children to an extreme degree. While kids don't often become terribly ill, sometimes they do, and hospitals are filling up. I don't have data for Knox County, but in Franklin County, as of Thursday, there were only 21 hospital beds available, total, adults and children. Health experts agree that masking is a crucial step to keeping our children in full-time in-person learning, which I think is the goal of all of us. The CDC has recommended masks be worn indoors by everyone, regardless of vaccination status, including in schools. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends masks in schools. Quote, "All students older than 2 years and all school staff should wear face masks at school unless medical or developmental conditions prohibit use," end quote. The leaders of all 6 Ohio children's hospitals put out an open letter earlier this month asking, quote, "all Ohioans to do what they can to help protect the state's children, which includes getting vaccinated if they are able, wearing masks during school and while attending large gatherings, and adhering to safe practices like social distancing and hand washing," end quote. Our own local public health department recommends universal masking in schools. Quote, "KPH strongly believes that masks are the non-negotiable prevention strategy school leaders must require now," end quote. Masks are this is also a proven method to limit transmission of COVID, and besides vaccine are the best tools to keep everyone in school as much as possible. Many local parents object to a universal mask requirement for their children, arguing they know what is best for them. But when mask use is limited to individual choice, those choosing not to wear masks put other people, including those wearing masks, at risk. Masks work best at preventing the virus from getting from an infected person into shared air. They work less well at filtering the virus out for the wearer. In a press conference last week, Governor DeWine stated, "The data is now clear that there is a higher level of COVID in school districts where masks are not required." On a personal note, my own 4th grader has noted that when cases were half this high last year, we pulled her and her sister out of school and homeschooled them. She literally has nightmares about not being able to get vaccinated. It was really, really hard for all of us in homeschooling last year.
Excuse me, but I think your time is up. Thank you very much. Our third speaker is Jay Steinmetz.
She's the one right behind me.
Jay Steinmetz
I'm gonna let Liz
is
go first. I'm right, she signed up right behind me, so I'm gonna go afterwards, because I'm gonna speak to what she's gonna say.
Is that okay?
sure.
Okay, thank you. I'm Elizabeth Boggs, I'm 47 Crystal Drive, and I have 3 daughters in the school system, and I'm alone. This is not my thing. I mean, I'm here, I feel compelled to say things on behalf of our children. I'm here to challenge the superintendent and board to do the right thing and give the choice back to the parents on whether our children wear a medical device. I believe the school has made themselves medical doctors and believing they can have the authority to put masks on healthy children. We are in a war, not your typical war with guns or violence. We are in a war of right versus wrong and good versus evil. I am also here to bring something to light. There was an email sent on September 13th to students at Mount Vernon High School from the administration. It started with 2 questions. The first one was, what is your gender or gender identity? And the selections were female, male, non-binary, transgender, or I prefer not to answer. This leads me to ask, why is the school promoting an agenda of confusion?
Yes.
The question is against family, faith, and logic. It also flies in the face of truth. The second question is what best describes you? Heterosexual, gay or lesbian, bisexual, or I prefer not to answer. I couldn't believe these questions. Oh, why is the school asking children ages 13 to 18 about their sexual preference? If I asked this to a child, I would be labeled a predator and maybe even popped in the nose. No institution or adult has the right to ask a child this. This is truly sad that this is where our society is at. I reached out to the administration and was told that this is a survey from the PBIS system, a system that all schools are required to use for the state, and this was the Ohio Department of Education survey. They said they would reach out to the state rep and express the concerns I have. I am challenging the school to do better, do the right thing. Just because it is required does not make it right. We face choices each day that have real consequences. And I am a rule follower at heart, but I cannot comply with a government that is not right or just. We have all learned the last 18 months that the government does not care about us or our children. I am challenging the board and the schools to do the right thing when it comes to these children and families. I am also challenging the community and the parents to pray to an almighty God to fix the school system and the parents to come together in a movement for our children. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Simon.
Let me fix this for you, Jay. Just a second. Okay,
Sorry about that.
there you go.
I'll be brief. My name is Jay Steinmetz, class of 96. I live at 1241 Gambier Road. The reason I wanted this to go first is those questions on the survey you were asked is a new requirement under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Religious exemptions for masks and for all these other things are also covered by a section of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm not going to read you the appropriate language, but it says something along the lines of religions may be organized or personal, and those beliefs may be illogical or unreasonable to other people, and the government doesn't get to decide one way or the other. So my question is, why are you guys enforcing one portion under equal opportunity regulations of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but you're telling people that the state of Ohio doesn't recognize religious exemptions? It doesn't matter what Ohio law says at all. It's covered in the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
Yep.
So you're in violation of the law. Straight up.
Yeah.
And you need to have your lawyer look and see what a writ of mandamus says.
Our fifth speaker is Liz Boggs. Oh, I'm sorry. It said Liz, not Elizabeth, so. Judy Geppinger.
You try. Oh, yeah, you really get close. You kind
My name is Judy Eppinger, and I've been a lifelong resident of Knox County all my life. My daughter has been in the Mount Vernon School District from kindergarten to the present. In 2020, our children were mandated to wear a mask. This created multiple issues for all the families, from making accommodations to homeschooling our children, to in-person learning. My daughter chose to remain in person because she wanted to be around her friends and be able to socialize. She complained multiple times to me about not being able to see due to her glasses fogging up. She had to stop wearing her glasses because she has 2 stigmatisms. Before school started this year, she went for her yearly exam. Both her stigmatisms have now worsened because she wasn't able to wear her glasses due to the mask. My daughter also has asthma. She uses a rescue inhaler when needed. She also has one at school that is provided by her doctor. School began on August 24th. On August 26th, I received a call from the nurse at the Mount Vernon Middle School, asking me if I would come in and sign a form allowing my daughter to use her rescue inhaler when it was needed. She never asked me to sign a form if I wanted her to wear a mask. You're putting medical devices on our children. A mask is not a medical device. It's not allowed. You need to reevaluate what you're doing to our children. If you will accept the physician's order for an inhaler and force our children to wear a mask, isn't that a double standard? It's sad when you see our children playing band. My daughter also plays in the middle school band. She wears a mask. The only thing you can see is her eyes. We wouldn't even know it was her. Do you realize that in America, Ohio is rated number 5 for sex trafficking? Are you willing to take the responsibility if one of our children is kidnapped while on school grounds because you can't recognize who they are? In my final statement, I would like to say that you should leave it up to the parents and the children to decide if they want to wear a mask. There have been 2 doctors speak here tonight. I brought with me a carbon dioxide machine, and I would like to call my daughter up to put a mask on. And I want you to look at that meter when it goes up. And if this meter is lying, then I want those 2 doctors that spoke to tell me that this machine is lying.
Sorry, but your time is up. Our next speaker is Abraham Herod. And if I mispronounce your name, would you please say it correctly? I apologize.
Well, I'm quite comfortable to be here. I don't want to be here. This is the last place, the second last place I'm going to be. The last place I'm going to be is when my kids out from school, which I'll just do a quick personal story. We did pull the students out of school when we were received a letter overnight stating that tomorrow morning the kids had to go back to school with a mask. Despite what we were told at the beginning of the year, and with no apparent proof that the requirements were met for the absentee students. What were the absentee for Columbia, by the way? Do we know how many students were absent? What percent? Because 20%.
Sorry, this is not a discussion.
Okay, well, I
May
didn't
just
get any answers. I didn't get them in the email either. What? You won't answer this. I'll ask the question. How come you guys are sitting here, no mask, one? You may say 6 feet apart. You've been whispering in each other's ears since the start of this.
Who would only come down after?
Is that the way that works? We don't transmit anything after hours. You guys are free to bend over and whisper 2 inches from each other's face, while you then say, you guys can't do that. That's absolute nonsense. I can't believe you even have the nerve to show your faces. It's unbelievable that you would do that. And to the doctors, I would love afterwards if you could explain to me what studies have been done, randomized controlled trials have been done to verify what you're saying is true. Because I've seen nothing on a mask. I've seen in 2015 a trial done on masks, and it proved that the control group did better than the cloth mask group. And it went so far as to say we need to recommend the hospitals in third world countries quit giving cloth masks to their staff because it was less effective than nothing at all. So I can give you the link to that randomized control trial if you'd like. I'd love to hear your trial, because all I hear is an article says, yeah, anyone can write an article. I'm not interested. I don't know what else you have, other than the fact that we're clearly speaking in the same microphone. It's the microphone magic. It doesn't get COVID. Now I'm breathing off of this microphone. Again, my kids can't do it. I'll get my personal story for the last 46. We put our kids out of school because we weren't going to comply at all with this. They stayed out of school for a week. They got zero work to take. They got a little bit of work to take home. If they'd have been quarantined, you not have packets ready. This is 18 months in. You guys haven't figured out how to get packets together to take home if someone is quarantined. They went a week without school because of your rash, quick decision. You could have given us the weekend at least. So we got sent to the doctors. I'd be glad to tell you the doctors that we went to. They signed and said, yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that a kid needs to wear a mask. And now they're back in school without masks. And as far as I know, the only two in Columbia without masks. And the only downside to that is now bullying is the wrong word, but now they've been segregated as the kids that are different than everybody else. Why you've created such a ridiculous mess based on zero science whatsoever?
Your time is up. Thank you. Next is Jordan, and is it Dennis or Dennis?
My name is Vernon Jordan Dennis.
Thank you.
706 North St. Joseph Street. A little bit about me. I got 3 kids in this community. I moved here about a year ago. I provide for my children what they eat, where they sleep, the clothes they wear, everything about them I provide, and I've done well. Who are you to tell me now I'm unfit as a parent and I cannot choose what they wear on their face? That is not your right. You people who lose that right are drug addicts, felons, not hardworking parents. You sit up there with that smirk on your face, it's nonsense. And I'll apologize for my language if I lose my tone. I don't have much to go. My grandparents were on the school board. Stuff they did when I was growing up seemed like the right thing to do. I'm sure it's a hard decision for you. Make the right choice. Stuff they did bothers me every day. All for what? For financial gain for your school? I'm sure the people behind you would be happy to donate. You should all be ashamed. I hope when you go in the mirror tonight, you're ashamed. Every one of you. I hope you can't sleep. Because when I leave here tonight, I'm looking in the mirror to wonder if anybody's following me. It's a shame to look like that. It's really how you feel that putting pieces of fake cloth over your face are fixing anything. And clearly your mask is affecting the oxygen in your brain and you should resign immediately. I know you went to school with people in your hometown and work with them every day. I was told you're a reasonable man. I'm not asking you guys to think about this tonight. Today, go home, think about it. Do some research, go to Children's Hospital, look at all the kids that are down there with RSV right now. Talk to a real nurse, not this made up stuff. I don't know. Wednesday the 22nd, I'll be with all my child in the school, and I urge their parents to do the same. And if you don't have the option to move or any other school, you know, I can't help you. There's groups out there like the one I'm in, and they will help you. At 30 years old, I'm in this community. I'm ashamed I have to come up here and talk to all you people. I don't have a college education, but I'm smart enough to think outside the box and know that a piece of underwear over your face, they couldn't even stop the smell of fart through your jeans. It's not going to affect you from COVID. It's going to get outside your face. Oxygen deficiency. I carry a gas monitor. If anything is under 20 foot in your oxygen or 0.00 on my monitor, you have to evacuate that confined space. Make the right choice. If you hurt one of these kids, God bless you. Because nobody's been hurt yet. Don't let it be.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Amy Joyner.
Deep breaths here. So my name is Amy Joyner. I live on 9169 Kenny Road. My husband and I have a shared family of 8 children. 2 girls have graduated, one from the Career Center, one from the high school. Our other 4 have a junior, a sophomore, an 8th grader, a 6th grader, a 2nd grader, and a 3-year-old that is up and coming to the school district. So we're gonna be here for a long time. As I stand up here, my heart is racing and I feel like my palms are sweating and I get emotional when it comes to this. I know you guys are under a lot of pressure right now and you feel like you have to make a right or wrong decision. And I understand that there's more than one opinion on this. There's people, as we've seen, that are for the mask and ones that we see that are for not. I pray that you guys go home tonight and you think about our opinion, not just the ones that you see that say they want to wear the mask, because you know why that is. As Jordan stood up here and he said, I feel like he definitely spoke from the heart. I'm gonna, give me a second. Okay, so on August 16, 2021, you had a board meeting here. I'm not sure if it was here or not, but I watched the video over and over again. 28 minutes and 25 seconds into it, Mr. Cedar, you stated that you were welcoming the students who wanted to wear the mask and then it was a choice. You said that you wanted the parents to feel like they had a choice to make a decision for their kids. I understand things have happened between now and then, but we feel like those rights are now no longer in our hands. There's a lot of duties that you guys have on the board, and making a medical decision is not one of them. Parents have many rights in education. We have a right for our kids to be safe in school. We have a freedom of speech, and we have a right of discrimination. In no uncertain terms, discrimination is illegal as stated in the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees equal treatment to all, including public school students. We have the right to demand the education we believe our children need. With that being said, I have my daughter Kaya. She's a force to be reckoned with. When this came out, she decided she wasn't going to wear a mask. She wasn't going to fold. She wasn't going to cave. She knew what she wanted. She went to school over half the day, sometimes being sent home by the principal or whichever teacher decided to catch her in that moment. In one particular moment that happened, she said in the office, which I picked her up from school, she received a text from another peer of an office helper in there, telling her all the horrible things that were being said about her and how they needed to watch her when she got on the bus for soccer that night to make sure she had on a mask. Imagine how she felt. And another incident, my 6th grader who was 11 years old.
Excuse me, but your time is up. I'm sorry.
Keep on. Well, our 6th grader who's 11 years old, she is my turn next. She got sent down to the office and the principal down in the office, he got to see her fall apart because she had a mask on. Yet she doesn't believe that she should be wearing one. We obviously both feel that it hinders their immune system. It doesn't allow them to let in all this thing that the normal immune system should be let in to grow their immune system like a normal human being. Okay. Yeah. So that's a belief that a parent may have, and whether it be religious or whatever it is, the exemption forms that we applied to, Cedar for the paperwork that you guys asked for was definitely either not denied or not approved because we haven't got an answer back. Okay. We understand you guys are all put under a certain amount of pressure here. We understand you guys all have personal opinions here. You're being pushed from all different directions. I guess this isn't a question and answer. We can't ask you guys questions. You can't give us answers. The only thing we can give you is the best information that we have been given from the outside looking in. Okay. You guys are not handcuffed. The health department has told us they haven't handcuffed you guys. Their job, if you're following your mandates or you're following your quarantines, their job is to quarantine kids, not yours. Okay. If they want to quarantine our kids, if you have a confirmed case of COVID, let them do their homework. Don't put it on the principals. Don't put it on the teachers. Don't put it on anybody else. We've seen this happen weeks ago in Centerburg. Exactly how we're not doing it here. Their superintendent overturned it because he's not going to stand up and do their job for them. He told the health department, if you guys want to mandate any kind of quarantines, you come in and take care of it. Yeah. We're not going to do it anymore. We're going to go here and teach kids. Okay. So I'm just saying you have the power in your hands. Whether you be the right thing or the wrong thing, there's a lot of different opinions out here. And everybody feels that they should have a choice, just like the vaccines. And if we don't put our foot down over one thing simple as the masks, the next thing coming is a vaccine mandate. It's all of our civil rights, okay? You guys preach about it in school, hopefully you teach it in school, but under the Constitution, we are the people, we are to be protected from the government, not the government from us. You guys are all members of Ohio. We're trying to make things easier for you guys. They're passing House bills all the time. House Bill 244 goes in effect October 13. As you guys know, you can't discriminate between a vaccinated and unvaccinated student. So when that happens and they get the quarantines and you guys say, well, this kid was vaccinated, this kid wasn't, you can't discriminate anymore. And that flow chart you guys got from the health department is null and void as of October 13th, okay? So things are changing rapidly. Make a common sense judgment call here, okay? You guys have the power in your hands. Don't let anybody like the health department or any other people, doctors who may, whoever it is, handcuff you, okay? You guys can make these decisions to help us out, all right?
We have several more that have signed up, but we have completed our 30 minutes. We've had 10 speakers, 3 minutes each, that's 30 minutes.
Can I say something, please? You wouldn't like to do the meter? Two doctors, no. Are you gonna lie and tell me that this is not true? Within a minute, a PPM rose to 10,000. You realize what happens when you're gonna lie?
Excuse me, but let's not be identified.
I'm not threatening anybody. I'm asking her a simple question.
No, but that's not
Over
appropriate.
5,000 PPMs a minute.
They're not medical doctors, so it doesn't matter what they have to say. They can say
Okay, I'll just say this. Anything over 5,000, you touch a child to have brain damage. Do you want that on your hands? Because it's not going to be on mine, it's going to be on yours.
Respiratory acidosis.
I think we'll go to the next portion of the meeting, and I would like, if you would like to be dismissed at this time, that would be appropriate. If you want to stay for the entire meeting, you're very welcome to do so. And Mike Lang, did you have anything you wanted to share this evening?
Thank you, Doctor. I don't have anything to thank you.
No more, put your masks on. We're going to the Danville School Board meeting, so we're going down to the Danville. You knew that was more than 10 people speaking, didn't take the time so everybody could speak.
You just didn't have to cut us off. Start growing your head.
We're going to help you with the food pyramid that's killing our kids. Let's stop feeding them shit in school. How about that? Fucking drop that food down on the ground.
That is not civil behavior, I'm sorry. Would you please leave?
You cannot hurt my child if you don't get it right.
We are at additions, deletions, were there any?
We have no additions and deletions at this time.
So you could have gave up a few extra minutes for other people to talk and you ain't got none of that other shit to deal with.
I'd like to point out something.
I'd like to point out.
This is a Board of Education meeting that's held in public. It is not a public meeting.
It is our meeting. You guys
Excuse me.
worry about it.
No. I'll revise.
You need to listen to
You
us.
can't just sit up there and wear my kids wear masks all fucking day.
I have a mask and I will wear it when I'm around people.
So my.
Okay, we're starting to
You're
get
welcome
on
to
where we
leave.
need to be, please. I really respect
You
that.
have nothing else to talk about. You can have
We have a business meeting to conduct. And we're going to go through our business meeting. I appreciate the respect and civility we've had up until this point.
And this is for your business. When is your parents' meeting? When is our turn? Because these are our kids. Our kids are my work here.
When are you gonna sit and listen to us?
You handed me 3 emails. I emailed you numerous times.
See, that's the
Numerous times.
When are you gonna
And
stop the
I know you
violation of the Civil Rights Act of
No, hold on. I know you took
1964? You got a
umbrage when
bad
I called
lawyer.
you a tyrant.
Bad lawyer.
And I understand that you're in a tough spot, but when you don't respond to emails, and the only time you take a meeting with us is when you're coerced, it doesn't feel good to be coerced, does it? So that is the definition of a tyrant. I'm sorry, but you can change. You can do better.
You need to do that. Or you need to get elected to something else.
What business do you have?
I was trying to point out that this is a public, not a public meeting. It's a meeting of the Board of Education for Mount Vernon City Schools. We do not have to have public participation. That is not required. We did that because we wanted to hear.
Well, you'll have us at the school. We pay for this building.
You guys allow us 3 minutes.
I'm just saying, according to Ohio revised law.
For this building. You'll have time for us.
We're going to go ahead and move on with our portion of the meeting. You're welcome to stay. If you wish to leave, that's your prerogative, but I will be sharing some information at this time.
I think it's insane that you allow the parents 3 minutes to speak. 3 minutes.
We're allowed 30 minutes in several.
3 minutes for each individual parent. Not everybody even got to say how they feel. They didn't even get to get everything out. That is insane.
And especially when you don't respond to emails and you don't take meetings. This is our only opportunity. So where else, the next, we'll show up at your homes. We'll pick it. I mean, this, you can't get away from this.
At nighttime.
Nobody's hiding from anything. We extended our time to be 30 minutes.
It's our line. Doctors are getting it. It's ridiculous.
So how much more information? Can we stay and wait and talk after you're done?
You're welcome to talk to individuals after the meeting. This is the business.
Please don't go that way. You're going to be hating life. That's not what we need. I don't know if I believe that to be true, but.
It's frustrating to get your words out when nobody wants to listen to you, right? You tap our leg real heavy, yeah, you smirk a lot. It's frustrating, when your hands are tied, you can't do what you want to.
You're being very
So
disrespectful.
No, you're being disrespectful. You're all being disrespectful. You're forcing children to wear masks and you're talking about respect. Are you kidding? No.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You have that free choice. That's what they told the rest of us. So.
My friends.
We're not your friends. We don't even want you at this desk anymore. We don't even want you here anymore. You're the #1 person we want off that desk. So we're not your friend.
We're ready to move forward. If you don't be quiet, I'll just have you escorted out. I'm not playing games anymore. All right, please escort this gentleman out. And you went way beyond and you won't stop. We want to have a meeting here. All right, continue.
I consider all of you important people. And as Christians, as a Christian, as a lifelong person in the church, I beg of you, can we please have civility and kindness, which is the #1 commandment. And please, please express your feelings, but do it in a respectful way, as our Lord and Savior asks us to do.
Like the many, many emails we have sent and the many requests for meetings that go unheard.
So here we are not voting now. So my kids can do sports, we can do sports. These kids are sucking on the same freaking water bottles, and yet we have to wear masks all the day. Where is that making sense? Because school offers money and the school play.
Mr. Cedar, maybe you should just go ahead and continue if you would, please.
Move
Would you
forward.
give your update?
Sure. So we have a district update that we do on a monthly basis. I wanted to share some information that really brings us to where we're at now and how we're moving forward. At the beginning of the school year, as has been mentioned and was our desire, we encouraged and welcomed students and staff to wear a mask in school. However, we did not mandate or require them at that time. As a district, we said, and we believe, we honor the decision of parents when it comes to their children wearing or not wearing a mask in school. We wanted to leave that decision left up to the individual, so we were about choice from this summer all the way up until a time where we had to institute a safeguard. We did put a safeguard into place, and that safeguard was when certain conditions were met that we felt we needed to move in a different direction. And to Mr. Harrod's point, and I will take ownership of this, we set a safeguard that was 20%. We were right approaching that at both the middle school and the high school. And I made a decision that we weren't going to split our schools up and have some masked and some not masked. And we saw it getting out of control. So we went to a mask requirement for everybody as we carefully monitored it. So Mr. Harrod, that's the way it was. We sent out some information early in parent updates as well as our website. As you can see, the information here before school started was we wanted to welcome and encourage, but not required masks. We respected that right, but the safeguards had to be in place. I was worried about the safeguard only because I knew where this quarantine piece could go. We sent this out in a parent update as well, and that parent update was really clear. I tried to make a pictorial depiction here of this student in the middle. If that student is positive in a typical classroom setting, because we don't have enough room to get so far apart, 8 students would be impacted by one student who was deemed a positive case. And we tried to get that information out, and we tried to share that with you. We also wanted to make sure it was clearly understood how this contact tracing works. So when you say that the health department says we don't have to mandate face masks, that's true. But we have to follow the quarantine procedures as was given to us and outlined to us by the Ohio Department of Health. You may think it's ridiculous, but it is the law, and that's the way we need to move forward.
Excuse me, but you should not be interrupting our superintendent.
You put them at circular tables like in a restaurant, they don't have to wear their mask, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Shorter at the beginning of the year.
Or pretend it's a football field.
Right.
My son was quarantined on Monday. This stupid letter came out Wednesday.
The other thing that we,
Go back to school on Thursday. What happened to the 10-day quarantine? It's disappeared. You can go back to school after 3 days. Yes, that makes total sense, right? No, it's not. It's COVID. But they're under our guard. Do this mask on their face is going to protect them from COVID? I doubt it. Oh, go ahead. They also said that already. Do you eat? What happens if I eat your steak? Yes. Yeah.
as we move forward, yes. I don't usually.
All right, I'm gonna make it real simple. As much as I may agree with the majority of you, okay, hold on. I respect the rules that are here, okay? Just like in my job, I have to do things a certain way, whether I agree with it or not, okay? This is their portion of their meeting. If anybody else disrupts it from this point forward, you will be asked to leave. If you do not leave, you may be charged, okay? So I respect how you feel. I respect how they feel. This is not your portion. It is a meeting in a public place for you to listen. If you disrupt, again, or anybody else, we are gonna have to intervene, and I don't think anybody wants.
All right, well, I will leave.
We don't want that.
I
We don't want that. Okay?
I will leave, but I will say, the problem is that we don't get emails back.
I
There is
understand.
total
There's a process.
silence.
There's a process.
Total.
Well, okay, listen, I'm not saying this. I don't know. I understand.
Yeah, because
Can you
he
tell
doesn't
me?
go
Listen,
back to us.
he has a boss, it's like I have a boss. If I write to the ticket, we don't argue on the street, they would pull. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
So who do we take it to? This is where it starts.
This is our investigation points are.
They have legal rights to have their meetings. Okay?
We're just asking for a separate meeting.
We're here to keep peace.
We have heard you. You've already given us your opinion, and we thank you for coming.
If
you don't have, this is the place, when do we do it?
Where's the meeting? Okay.
Yeah, we'd love to come back.
That's why I can see you. Where's our meeting?
You have already spoken.
No. We'd like to speak when it's appropriate.
That's something you can answer now.
I can't. We have board meetings monthly.
Very Thursday free.
I feel like I've responded to all of your emails for a while, right?
All right, stop. And we'll right after the meeting. No more. Hey, by us. We mean meeting. All right, you, no more dirty. You're gone. Go.
So as we kind of work our way through what we were concerned about with the quarantine piece, we came down to this. I think this is an important piece to share. On August 18th, we made a request to the local and state health departments to reconsider the current quarantine guidelines. We also offered an alternative, which at that time was denied. And those are the guidelines that were presented to us and how a revised code was written relative to those documents. This is a depiction of our daily COVID positive students and staff. And you'll notice from the left here, we started the school year obviously off with low numbers. And these are daily. This is a daily chart that depicts how the cases began to rise. So we had 2 here in August, and then as we started to work our way up, you could see the way they began to rise. Right at this point here, this demarcation, we were at a point where we were almost quarantining 300 kids just based upon 48 students and staff who had tested positive at that time. And that's a significant thing to understand. We can't educate students if they're not in school, and we've had no choice but to follow the quarantine guidelines. You can see after we made that choice, the following day, we had 12 positive. This was a Friday. Come back after Labor Day, we're up to 21 new students, 14 new students, 8 new students. And the thing just continues to expand upon itself to where it gets to a point to where it makes it very manageable. So as we continue to monitor the rise of COVID positive cases, especially at the middle school and high school level, we began to see the reality of contact tracing and student quarantine. On Wednesday, September 1st, we had 48 positive cases and nearly 300 students in quarantine. Our current path compromised our ability to perform daily instruction. We made the decision to pivot to temporarily require masks with a review at the end of the month. Since then, we've had 75 more positive student cases. Quarantine estimates, had we not changed, I'm not sure where we'd be, but it would have been way much higher than 300. And that's the reason we made that shift. Another interesting piece of information. It has been said here that the Delta variant is different than last year. We see it. COVID positives year-to-year perspective in 2020 and 21, for an entire school year, we had 137 positive student cases, 69 positive staff cases. In 1 month, we've had 123 positive cases and we've had 20 staff cases. Those are just data statistics. I'm not going to make any inference with it. You can look at it and you can read it as you would like to see it. The change that occurs on a weekly basis can be quite a lot. This was updated September 10th, 2021. You can see we had 62 active student cases at that point. 1 week later, we're down to 37 active student cases. And so from week to week, students come off of a quarantine or off of a positive, and they move on to obviously hopefully getting better and getting back to school. But we're seeing a slight decline as we take a look at that. From the decision to start school with mask optional approach to our decision to temporarily require masks, we have received a lot of information from a lot of people with very passionate positions relative to this topic. We've heard from health organizations like health departments, the Ohio Department of Health, the CDC, and the American Association of Pediatrics. We've heard from healthcare workers, physicians, pediatricians, nurses, mental health professionals. We've been offered internet website articles, FaceTube and YouTube videos, professional journal articles. People have presented us with media outlets from TV, radio, and podcasts. We've heard from children's hospitals, state and local political subdivisions, parents and community members of Mount Vernon City Schools. We've been getting that kind of information on a regular basis. So the question is, what's next? Where do we go from here? As was stated in the public participation portion of this section, Governor DeWine and the 6 children's hospitals in Ohio met with Ohio superintendents last week to share current hospital and pediatric information. They also encouraged Ohio schools at that time to require masks for the next 4 weeks. Governor DeWine has invited all board members to a conversation with him and pediatric health experts on Thursday, September 23rd. Superintendents throughout the state have made a plea to Governor DeWine and to the Ohio Department of Health to re-examine the existing state quarantine guidelines. We've even had some local support from local health officials joined us in expressing a need for alternative relief from current procedures on quarantine. We will take the next couple of weeks to gather as much information as possible before making a recommendation with regards to masks in October. If I had one other district update to share, it would be our new district website. It's unfortunate that it gets overshadowed by the events that we are currently all facing, but I'd encourage you to go on to our district website and to look at the new look. If you want to know where the COVID dashboard is on our current website, you would simply go under our district, and then our district, you would find the COVID dashboard on the right-hand side. We try to update that daily. Not only daily from active cases, meaning they're still active, to cases that are cumulative, that show a cumulative effect over time. So I would submit that as our board update for tonight.
Thank you.
As we look down through, I have board policies for first reading reviews. Board members can take a look at those policies over the course of the next 30 days. If you have any questions relative to those policies, please feel free to forward those our direction. And we have no items in this section for board approval tonight.
Thank you. Curriculum and instruction, we have a student success report. The first item I'd like to just highlight briefly, the Mansfield City's added gardening and agriculture, agribusiness courses at the intermediate Malabar School. These are lessons in careers in plant and animal science and agriculture and agribusiness. And they point out that there are wellness benefits in school gardening and high levels of student participation. The name of the project is Grow Malabar. And the teachers and volunteers installed a high tunnel, 32 feet by 72 feet. And this was an initiative that included plastic walls so that the students can use this throughout the year. And these walls zip into place. I don't know if we have a picture up, but the kids need to get outdoors and do physical activity. And their first crops for fall are lettuce, spinach, and other greens. And this was a partnership between the school district and the Richland Grow Operative. And they plan to add another high school tunnel at the Mansfield Senior High School in 2023. The school gardening program includes student participation, has increased student participation and involvement, and it boosts academic success and potential to benefit physical and mental health by reducing anxiety, boosting self-esteem, and improving the knowledge of healthy foods. So I thought this was a really favorable initiative. The only other thing I would mention in the research brief, there was research cited regarding there's a movement currently to return to K-8 buildings instead of middle schools. And the research that they conducted is inconclusive, but the main point was in the last paragraph in which It was stated by April Tibbetts, the Chief Communications Officer for the Association for Middle Level Education, that it's not at all about what grades are in the school building, but it's about making sure the programs and practices are developmentally responsive to the needs of the young adolescent students. So I thought that was a very good point. And that's all I have for success tonight, unless you have any questions. Okay, moving ahead then.
We have one item for board approval tonight in this section. It's the approval of resolution 2621. It's a graduation requirement for the class of 2022. Because of the conditions last year in the school settings, they have provided some relief for our juniors and seniors who are going to be graduating this year and or next with regards to requirements and end of year testing.
And did you want to specify the 20 units? Is that?
Instead of 21 units to graduate, it's 20. And instead of end of course exams that have a ranking of 0 to 5, they are actually allowing students who take a class in that they would use their actual grade for that class as an alternative to meet that graduation requirement.
Thank you. I thought there may be some interest in the audience for that. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve that item as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And fiscal services.
Feel free to open the first link, Mr. Sheeter. So like I say this a lot, but this is a very boilerplate financial report. There's lots of changes in terms of the
Could you
finances.
speak up just a little bit?
I will try.
Thank you.
There's lots of changes in terms of the district finances, in terms of federal funding. This report reflects the general fund. So there certainly isn't much going on. If you scroll down to page 3, Mr. Sheeter, you can see the typical things you see. The negative at the top is because we get advances on our taxes from the county auditor, and then we pay all the fees once we have received those. Very boilerplate. Unless there's any questions, I would move on to the next link that I have. As you know, before we can spend funds, they have to be appropriated. As we continue to get different funding, be it grants or money from a variety of sources, those have to be appropriated. So I have a couple of appropriations here for board approval before we can spend that. I also wanted to make an announcement regarding some American Rescue Plan funds we got in the special education world. And I wanted to remind the public that each year the Mount Vernon City School District receives Part B IDEA special education funds from the federal government to assist in providing services to students with disabilities. If you have any questions or comments about how we utilize those funds, you can contact our student services director, and you can find that information on the new website that Mr. Sheeter previewed just a little while ago. That's it for me. I do have
some
the
donations.
donations. Would you?
You read those, please.
Have several donations. The first one is to Dan Emmett Elementary from Hopewell United Methodist Church, and they're donating backpacks, glue sticks, markers, paper, pencils, and miscellaneous school supplies. Thank you to the Hopewell Church. We have a donation to the district from Rural King. They donated approximately 900 tubes of hand sanitizer valued at over $1,800. Thank you to Rural King. We have a donation from Lake Home Church. I apologize for that. $10,000 they donated to the school district to be used for a timing system at the field house and an obstacle course at Pleasant Street Elementary. So again, thank you to Lake Home Church. And finally, we have a donation from Dan Emmett Elementary's PTO in the amount of $1,500 for a Chromebook cart, and that will obviously go to Dan Emmett Elementary.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve those 3 separate areas of items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann.
I'm sorry.
Would you like a second?
I'm sorry, second.
Thank you. Were there any questions about any of the items? Would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Our legislative liaison report. Ms.
Thank
Gulladye.
you. Thank you. The Ohio Department of Education provided information on how school districts can request COVID-19 test kits. And then the Senate Ways and Means Committee heard testimony on HB 126. This bill requires school boards to pass a resolution in regards to property valuation. HB 140 would modify the form of election notices and ballot language for property tax levies. And I'm sure everyone's interested in that kind of language. It would change the information displayed in the ballot language. It would also require an estimate of the amount the tax will collect annually. And the bill also limits the type of font on the ballot. HB 122 is the Senate Health Committee heard testimony, and it expands existing laws regarding telemedicine services, provisions to apply to school psychologists and other health entities. And then they amended SB 100. The bill would appropriate $70,000 in grants to ESCs to assist hiring a licensed independent social worker and to authorize a mental health professional for crisis assessment to a suicidal minor without parental consent. And then in a quick overview of the Legislative Budget Office, Green Book, the budget proposal from the Ohio Department of Education, and it oversees 1.7 million students in K-12 public schools. And the budget for fiscal year 2022 is $12.47 billion, and 2023 is $12.65 billion. And in the new Fair School Funding Plan, students are counted as where they are educated rather than where they reside. And this is different from the former plan of deducting when if there's a transfer method. And I believe that's everything for this report right now. Does anyone have any questions or comments? I did contact Representative Carfagna concerning the mask issue. And I haven't heard back from him yet, but that was just today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Under this section, we have one item for board approval tonight, a free facility request for the Mount Vernon Colt Football League to use the practice fields and stadiums during games August 1st through November 10th.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve that item as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Gulladye. Are there any questions? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Under student services, the Ohio high school.
I don't have enough. There's no updates.
By the time I get it out, okay.
No
Thank
updates.
you. And there are no recommended items, so we'll go on to
Items for board
personnel.
approval in this section. Under personnel, certificated and licensed staff, we have a number of items for information tonight. Item number one is a public hearing for the Ohio Revised Code section 330.7.353. The board will hold a public meeting on this issue of Pam Rose being reemployed as a retiree. We had that public notice in July. Anyone wishing to speak on behalf of the retired retiree of Pam Rose can now approach the podium. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move forward. On item number two, we do have some salary change notices. Those are items for information. These items for information will also be in your board approval section of this part of the agenda. Item B are items for board approval. First are the employment for 2021-22. We have a number of supplemental employment items here. And as we continue to work our way down, you'll see agricultural education 5th quarter grant, 1-year and 2-year contracts. We do have substitutes, and we're always in need of substitutes. So we're glad to see those there. We have extracurricular folks who are also on this particular part of the agenda. We do have the rescinding of one contract item tonight. Susan Rice, 5th grade outdoor education coordinator. She will be moving into kind of a mentor role for our new coordinator who will be taking on our 5th grade outdoor education camp.
I'm sorry, were you
Those are
finished?
the items for board approval.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve those certificated licensed staff.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And were there any questions or comments? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman. Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you.
We do have one additional item here listed separately. It's an employment substitute contract as well. And it's for Lauren Hubbard for board approval tonight.
I make a motion to approve substitute Lauren Hubbard.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. And if you'll call the roll, please.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
I need to abstain.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Classified staff.
Classified staff, no items for information tonight. Number of items recommended for board approval. You'll see the employment here of a 4.5-hour cook, a number of different shift custodial works, 2-year contracts, years 2 and 3 on a sequence. We have 1 transfer and a number of substitute employments. And unfortunately, I'm sharing with you the resignation of Luke Baer, who's been with the district for a long time. He's taken on a director of maintenance role at Danville. So we wish Luke the best.
Thanks very much.
I would entertain a motion to approve those classified staff items as read.
So moved. Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzman and Mr. Gulladye. And were there any questions?
No, I'd just like to thank Luke for his years of service.
Yes, thank you
It's
for
going to be
mentioning that.
I noticed again, I will need to abstain on one of these, so we'll just go ahead and continue on with the motion as it is, and I will abstain.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. I just noticed it.
Hey, would you call the roll then? Please?
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Abstain.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And there's no further board business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn the formal meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And if you'll call the roll, please.
Mr. Gulladye.
Yes.
Mr. Workman.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for attending.